Did we just see the bottom of the bear market? Let's really talk about it. I got a lot to say. So, first and foremost, if you've been following the channel for a while, you'll know that I called the top of the bull market pretty much to the exact tick 7.5 months early. That's on this channel. You can go and check that video out from July 7th, 2024. So I literally called the top of the bull market, but then I also might have just called the bottom of the bear market. I'm gonna let you know my thoughts. I'm gonna let you know if I think that we at the bottom right now, or if this is just a retracement before the next move down. But let's start with DXY, which is the US dollar. And this is also something I call the top of. We've been short the dollar since up here, and I called the dollar into this yellow line back when prices up here. We finally got to this yellow line, and now you're getting some reactions. So on a dollar here, the reason I chose this yellow line is because it's the opening of this weekly bullish fair value gap. Um, there's also an order block down here. If you take all four of these candles, that makes up a bullish order block, and you see prices reacting to it so far. So in my most recent class, I talked about this daily VI being a decision point for DXY as to what comes next. If we reject it, we'll see lower. If we push past it, we'll see a lot higher on DXY. And so price has been consolidating on it so far this week. It's Wednesday. I know only 3 days have passed since I made that video, but I'm just saying, things are starting to shake up here. As you can see, this 4 hour looks strong. We'll see what happens. Tomorrow is in the inflation report. In other words, tomorrow is CPI. CPI will definitely make this thing pick a direction. Well, it should make this thing pick a direction. So we'll see what comes next on DXY. But why did I take us here? I took us here to show that things are starting to move. The US dollar is very important as far as the movement of all markets. If the dollar is staying still, a lot of markets tend to stay still with it. If the dollar starts to move, a lot of the other markets start to move as well. So I like to look at what the dollar is doing to tell me of potential shifts in sentiment. So if the dollar is about to shift back to the upside right now, which it definitely has a chance to do that, that might show some potential shifts there on NASDAQ. Let's go to crypto real quick and look what's going on with crypto. So when it comes to Bitcoin, if you remember, Bitcoin was up 10% on this day right here on March 2nd, Sunday, March 2nd, it was up 10%. And I had class at that exact moment. And I said in class, I think Bitcoin's going to reject right now and head back to new lows. But I said that it could consolidate between this purple area and this blue area, because this purple area is a very valid point for Bitcoin to bounce on. And this blue area is also a very valid point for Bitcoin to reject on. I was correct, right? You see that we consolidated right in that area because between two valid, what we call PD arrays, premium discount arrays, which is basically, in other words, areas on the chart that we expect bounces on or rejections on. When you have two valid PD arrays, that's where you see consolidation occur between them. And so that's why I anticipated that. I'm on record saying that as long as I feel like NASDAQ is bearish, I believe Bitcoin's going to be bearish as well. I'm starting to shift sentiment on NASDAQ, but we're going to talk about that. Spoiler alert. But seeing how Bitcoin's downtrend operated in this manner and it comes into a valid bullish PD rate, and then NASDAQ also finds its way to the target we talked about months ago, which once again, I know I'll get into that in a minute. There's a chance Bitcoin could skyrocket from here. One thing that's a very nice bull case for Bitcoin, not only is it holding our weekly bullish PD rate right here, and people who are my mentees, I know you see the painting happening on Bitcoin. This is a very beautiful painting reaction here. Now, outside of that, one thing you'll see on Bitcoin is that we chopped our way down. Like, I could barely point out any bearish fair value gaps. Even the ones right here got traded through, besides the one I told you about. I picked the only valid bearish fair value gap when I called this rejection on March 2nd. But yeah, ever since then it's been pretty choppy. And then there was a chance for Bitcoin to really break down. If Bitcoin would have broken down here, I would have believed in the downside right here, right? I always talk about anytime price is consolidating, when you leave that consolidation, you want to leave it with what? A fair value gap. If you've been following my channel, you want to leave consolidation with a fair value gap. This was Bitcoin's chance right here. You see what this day came in and eliminated the opportunity for a fair value gap under this consolidation. And so now you see Bitcoin pushing right back up. That's not a surprise. We know that's a false breakout to the downside while still holding our bullish PD array, and then you had a choppy move into it, Bitcoin looks like it has a nice run to the upside and store. So crypto's looking bullish. DXY is also looking like it's changing sentiment to back to the upside. We'll see. And now let's take it to NASDAQ. I know everybody want to hear me talk about NASDAQ. So on NASDAQ, I want to show you this. You can see here on December 31st, 2024, New Year's Eve at 8:29 p.m. I wanted to do this before the bull drop, right? I wanted to put out my projection for what I expect 2025 to do. I had the monthly giving me signals that it might come to this spot, and the weekly was giving me signals that wanted to come to this spot. I felt like they were both valid spots for price to bounce on after the bear market that I was anticipating, which we just saw play out. But since they're both valid, I just put both projections in the chat. I put a monthly projection, which is slightly under this weekly projection, slightly under it. But let me show you the weekly projection. I want you to look at where I place my arrow. Just above the 50% of this weekly bullish order block is where I place my arrow. I did that for a reason. If you notice, if you've been following me for a while, I put my arrows in very specific spots for a reason, because I'm very specific on where in my PD arrays I expect reactions to occur. Notice I didn't fill out the whole order block. I didn't go to the 50%. I didn't do any of that. There's a very specific spot I'm looking for it to bounce on. And now let's take it to actual NASDAQ and let's see this very same bullish OB. Look where it bounced. This is literally to the tick where I expect the bounce to occur on this weekly bullish OB. So that's the bottom so far of NASDAQ. And once again, if you've been following me for a while, I did call the very top tick of the bull market 7.5 months early, like back on July 7th, 2024, I called out the top tick of the S&P 500, where it will be. Price went to that exact spot and proceeded to have a bear market, which is what I said on July 7th, 2024. In that video, I said I wouldn't be surprised to see SPY get to this level, and then a bear market will start right after that. And then we watched that exact thing happen. So that's what, the S&P 500 did. The NASDAQ is correlated with it. And you see my projections on New Year's Eve was this. Now, more recently, in recent times, as price was dropping down here, we're watching the bear market play out, which it played out. We ended up getting a bear market by definition. I'm thinking about my spot that I was looking for bounces on, and I'm like, man, this spot still looks good to me, but I'm looking at QQQ. Let me go to QQQ to show you my thoughts there. I'm looking at QQQ at the time, and I'm like, the weekly's not as clean to me right here on QQQ as it is on NQ. And remember, they're both the NASDAQ. NQ is the futures version of the NASDAQ. QQQ is the options version of the NASDAQ. So this PD array that we use, yes, it's a weekly bullish OB, but this OB that we bounced on QQQ is my least favorite type of OB. I talk about different types of order blocks in my mentorship. This is my least favorite type of order block, but it's playing the heck out. So what can I say? But I'm just saying, I don't like to do things in hindsight. The reason why I started putting out slightly lower projections on QQQ in my channel for my free community, I put out projections on QQQ to bounce in here instead. Basically, in this general region instead was where I was looking for the bounce to occur instead of where it just bounced at. So I wanted the bottom to be in this section right here, not right there, based on QQQ. So QQQ made me doubt my original analysis of expecting a bounce on NASDAQ. That's literally why I started to say I think price is going to go lower. And what I'm basing that on also is, you see on this weekly chart here, where, see, you guys got to understand fair value, guys, when I say what I say. So maybe if I do this might make it clearer. Let's see. They're not showing me. Basically, what I'm trying to do is show you what the candle looked like just a couple of days ago. A couple of days ago, price was right here. And so there was a chance that we could make a weekly bearish fair value gap, which is me looking at this candle right here as the top candle, this red body as the expansion candle, and this green candle is supposed to be the third candle in the fair value gap. And at first, the high of this candle was like right here somewhere. right? So that would give me the opportunity to make a bearish fair value gap once the week is over. All right. That's important to me because that shows bearish sentiment. Today pushed up so hard that we eliminated the chance to make a bearish fair value gap on the weekly chart. And so since there's no bearish fair value gap on the weekly chart, to me, that's not a good sign for continued downside. Simultaneously, as I said, we're bouncing off of this very valid PD rate that I talked about on New Year's Eve. Now there is a bear case still in the air that I told my free community that I'm watching. I'm watching to see if we can reject this daily VI right here and come down. Um, the reason why I started instead, like at first, like maybe just even a couple hours ago, I'm like, I see the bounce happening at the New Year's Eve PD array, right? I see the bounce happening, but I also see this rejection spot right here. And therefore, first of all, I'm in between sentiment. But I'm telling you why I'm now leaning bullish. I'm now leaning bullish because I looked across the market and things are starting to coincide with bullish sentiment. It has nothing to do with Trump pausing tariffs and nothing like that. I will never let news influence my analysis. I don't care about news at all. I'm just strictly chart based. As you can tell, I mean, on December 31st, 2024, I literally said that that's the bottom of the bear market. And 7 months early, I called the very top tick of the bull market. So it's like I called the top and the bottom for real. So clearly it has nothing to do with news because the news, even when I called the top of the bull market, Trump wasn't even in office yet. And then when I called the bottom of the bear market, we didn't even know he was gonna pause tariffs at that time. That was how many months ago? 4.5, 4 months ago. So like, I mean, it's self-explanatory as to why I'm someone that's just strictly about charts because my charts are the most reliable to me. It's just that on any given setup, these are my thoughts. Like coming into this daily VI here after this weekly bullish OB, the reaction is so strong, especially with the 4 hour, that to me, I know that we haven't seen what the overnight price action is going to look like yet, but if we could leave this 4 hour bullish fair value gap open, we going to fly. The most this 4 hour bullish fair value gap should get traded into is the top half. If we start pushing into the lower half of this bullish fair value gap right here on the 4 hour chart, it's very likely that, or I would not say very likely, we have a much lower chance of calling this our bottom right here. If this is going to remain the bottom of the market, the bear market, we need to either not trade back to this or respect the upper half of this 4 hour bullish fair value gap. All right. And simply put, I am fully bullish on the NASDAQ if we could get closures over this daily VI. All right. The higher we push into this daily VI, the less likely it is that we're going to reject it, by the way. And so something else that made me feel like we're going to keep pushing is just how high into this daily VI we went. Because ideally, if we were going to reject it, I would have wanted it to reject on the lower parts of it. Seeing that we pushed into the higher part of it is already another bad sign for me. But technically, it's still valid until it's invalid, right? So I'm gonna still watch this area. It could definitely send price back to the downside, but I'm telling you why I lean bullish. I'm back to the analysis I had on December 31st, 2024, which is the NASDAQ bouncing right exactly where it bounced to create new all-time highs, and the bear market will be over. ES had the same setup. So this is something that I actually put out a few days ago as well. This is where I wanted to see ES bounce this monthly bullish fair value gap. All right. Just so you know, this is also a monthly bullish order block. You take these three red candles making up a monthly bullish order block. So I love what's happening on ES as well. They're both at valid rejection spots. ES can reject the same area and head back to the downside, but I'm once again telling you why I think it's not going to happen. On top of that, ES is also pretty much eliminating its ability to make a weekly bearish fair value gap right here. And if ES trades back into this initial fair value gap that it rejected a couple weeks ago, that's a bad sign. We don't want to use this fair value gap twice. Now, if we come here, it's very likely we running all-time highs next, where you have a solid liquidity pool of equal highs as well. So that's something to target. So I'm definitely like pretty bullish after today. Has nothing to do with news. Just I'm explaining the charts right now. Something else I told you about is YM. YM, I gave you, this was the downside token on YM. This monthly bullish fair value gap. Mentees, you probably see what other PD rate this is simultaneously. But literally it met an objective, right? Like it filled out this bullish fair value gap to the exact tick. And I keep telling you guys, fair value gaps, the most key word in that phrase is gaps. So it fills the gap, and then next thing you know, we push, and we push hard. Okay. And same thing, they have the same type of setup as Nasdaq and ES. So this is a crucial area, and we'll see what if CPI could cause us the rejection right here or not. But I do feel like we're gonna end up pushing to the upside based on everything stated thus far. And then let's keep looking at some other things. So, oh well, did I show SPY and QQQ? I don't know. This is SPY. Oh, SPY, I talked about this in class as well. Remember, everything I talk about is before it gets there, not after. So something we targeted to the downside is this monthly BISI and VI. And if you a mentee, you know what that also simultaneously is accomplishing, right? Think about BT4, the framework. So an objective definitely got met right there. And you can see the precision on that, right? As soon as we touch that, all of a sudden the market starts to turn back around. Objectives get, yeah, I'm telling you, this market moves on objectives. If you learn objectives at a deeper level, you'll see what I mean. You'll never view the chart the same ever again. Like, let's say this is the bottom of the bear market, right? How are you going to blame Trump's tariffs when, like, you could have seen this bottom coming a long, long time ago? Like, I just showed you, I saw that bottom on December 31st, 2024, before we ever knew about any of this stuff. I'm not psychic. I'm just following charts. The charts are the most reliable thing. The only thing I'm kind of annoyed with myself about is, once again, doubting my own analysis, because literally this was, even in my mentorship classes, mentees may remember me went back when prices up here saying, yeah, I think this bear market going to come right to here, and we're going to bounce on this weekly OB, and I want to load a bunch of calls right here. I remember talking about that with them. Once again, the only reason why I started to doubt myself and think it's going to go a little bit lower is because of looking at QQQ. QQQ threw me off a little bit because the type of order block that existed on QQQ, I was doubting it. It's playing the heck out, this type of order block. But I was down it. I was like, all right, maybe it wants to come just a little bit lower into these fair value gaps right here before bouncing. So that's on me for down my own initial analysis. But it's still there. And then what I talk about, my phone, I'm on SPY now. What was that? QQQ. Yeah, QQ, we already talked about it. SPY. Boom. All right, cool. So yeah, everybody has the same setup I already talked about. So we're at a crucial spot, but I'm telling you why I am leaning bullish. And we'll look at this as what, a sweep into a PD rate. Beautiful. Let's push out of here now. Let's go. On top of that, the down move, once again, because of the move today, we have now eliminated the opportunity to make a weekly bearish fair value gap. So now what I'm looking at this as is a staggered move down, because there's basically no fair value gaps to the downside. Tap into a valid PD rate, and we could go off for that now. All right, so that's that. And then let's look across like some options tickers. When I say objectives, this is what I mean. Look at the objective on Apple, weekly VI. Objectives get met, and that's where either retracements or reversals happen. Once objectives get met, Apple looks good for upside. Amazon, definition of objectives, I called this all-time high target before it ever got there. I said Amazon will reject 242.27. Look where it topped out at before it started its own version of a bear market. But then on the downside, what did it tap into? The same monthly BISI that it's been holding. This is a very important monthly BISI for Amazon to lose in order to get very bearish on it. It didn't lose it, and it also is reacting around the 50% of this red wick. So a couple confluences here for a bounce spot on Amazon, and it looks good for upside just like everybody else. And if Amazon was bearish, I like to look at the market from both sides, by the way. So if Amazon was bearish, then I would want the rejection to have lasted yesterday. You see this initial spot where it rejected right here? That is the rejection spot. I can't say too much, but this video is going out to my mentees as well as my free people. My mentees, if you could look at this picture, mentees, and see why I say that is the spot for the rejection. Where it's at now, my draw on Amazon is to run these highs. And if we run these highs, especially out of this area with the NASDAQ potentially pushing, I just think that this ticker is going to push and along with the rest of the market. So bullish on Amazon. Just trying to go to the majors right now, like major tickers, Mag 7 type tickers. Google, what objective did Google meet here? Weekly bullish OB. Tap into this weekly bullish OB and you see it has some decent upside to deal with right now. Same thing with Google, same thing I said on Amazon, it passed the rejection point for a bearish person. If I was bearish, I would be very nervous right now. Actually, not even, I would have stopped myself out of Google if I was bearish because it officially has, on the daily chart here, shown us that it has no more downside in it. I could be proven wrong. I'm just going off of probabilities. Probabilities wise, there's no reason to still be bearish on Google right here based on how it closed. So I use the Mag 7 as confluence for me at a point in NASDAQ. Whenever I'm looking at the NASDAQ, because at a point like today where NASDAQ is in between a bearish and a bullish PD array, I use confluences of Mag 7 to tell me which one is going to pick. When I look across the Mag 7, it looks like the bullish PD array on NASDAQ that I initially thought would work last December is actually going to be the one that works. So that bearish PD array I have is cool and all, but it's probably not going to work out. We're gonna end up pushing off of the bullish PD array. So really back to my original analysis once again, just bringing that point home. Meta, this morning I put out a projection on Meta to come down into this really this monthly BTC is why I said what I say 395, whatever I said. It's because I wanted Meta to come down into this monthly BTC. So this is a great example of I don't marry destinations, I marry delivery. When I look at this monthly chart, I would want Meta to still come down there. But when I look at this weekly chart, I wouldn't like what Meta did, basically, in not creating that weekly bearish fair value gap. Just like NASDAQ, just like ES, right? They did not create that weekly bearish fair value gap. In this scenario, that was crucial for us to do. So this is showing me that the initial destination I had is probably wrong. And on the daily chart, some more confluence for that is mentees, you know what I'm talking about. But once again, we passed the point of bearishness on the daily chart. So to me, the daily and the weekly are telling me that that is not the objective for Meta and is ready to turn back around. On top of that, I talk about how if we leave consolidation, right, and we leave with a fair value gap, cool, we need to respect that fair value gap. Meta is disrespecting that fair value gap right now as it pushes up. So this looks like an AMD scenario. On top of that, this is a very disgusting drop on Meta. It was barely any fair value gap, showing me that this is most likely a fake direction. And so Meta is probably going to fly, and it's going to be an aggressive move to the upside. And so Meta's looking bullish. And so I know I was talking to a couple people in the Discord earlier about like my targets, and even times when I am wrong about a target, I always say, like, based on how I trade, I know when I'm wrong very early. It don't take nothing but one day for me to know, yeah, this destination I had is probably wrong. I didn't even need the full day for real. Once Meta came to about 565-ish, I already would know, like, okay, never mind. So I don't really need much to know that my destination is wrong. And then I can have a brand new target. Like, I don't know if it's gonna play out, but like, let's say we go to all-time highs. It's like I know I'm wrong immediately, and then I could just make money on the upside instead, you know? And it's very rare that I'm wrong about something, but the times when I am wrong, I'm able to pivot quickly and easily because it's all based on very specific chart concepts. It's very simple. If you study delivery and you study bearish and bullish trend at a deeper level, you'll know what should or should not happen in any given scenario. And so if something out of the ordinary probability is happening, guess what? You're probably wrong, and then you could always pivot. All right. So what did Microsoft accomplish on the downside? This monthly BTC here pushed because I was looking at NASDAQ to potentially move lower. That's why I gave this target on Microsoft down here. I think I said like 305-ish coming into this fair value gap. But to be honest, we would have had to move past this for me to target that. Clearly, we just filled it out perfectly right there. And now we pushing back to the upside. And I could say the same thing about Microsoft that I said on other tickers. Choppy move down into a valid PD array. Yeah, let's push. And it is also, mentees, you see it, mentees, it is past the bearish validation point. Like if we were going to reject on Microsoft, it would have had to been yesterday's rejection. Yesterday's rejection was smooth. That's exactly where I would want the rejection to be. But seeing that we moved past that area today, never mind. Never mind. That is a horrible sign if you're a bearish person on Microsoft, especially with a choppy move down into the PD array. Terrible sign. That's where I would reposition and target upside. Nvidia objectives was met. Back when Nvidia was around 137-ish, I told everybody Nvidia is going to $90. It got there, objective met. Now it turned around and it's pushing back to the upside. If it had more bearishness, then I would have targeted that 75 target I told y'all about in a recent class, but it ends up being a sweep here. We disrespected the PD raise. I would want to see it respect if we were indeed bearish, and now Nvidia, I am just strictly bullish on it. You know, I think it has a lot of upside potential here, along with Nasdaq, of course. Pulled up the wrong ticket there, Nvidia. And yeah, I think that's all I wanted to cover. That's all I wanted to cover right there. You've seen those Mag 7 stops for real. So ultimately, yeah, I know the market hasn't opened yet. I'm making this video actually in between 5 and 6 p.m. It's currently 5:25 p.m. The market opens back up at 6. Everything I said is valid as long as we first of all, we need to push past this, of course. Then I really know I'm very likely to be right that we're officially bullish. But also this, as I said on the 4-hour here, we got to respect or not trade back to. Ideally not trade back to, but definitely at least respect the upper half of this 4-hour bullish fair value gap for me to maintain this bullish analysis. If we disrespect this and we start coming down to the lower parts of this fair value gap, I lose all bullishness. Okay? And everything I said, I would scrap it, and then I would start going towards any bearish targets I've given you guys in the past already. But it looks like the projections that I made here on December 31st, 2024 look to be correct. I don't even know why I second guess I know why I second guess myself, but it's okay. I'm human too, right? I'm human too, but we've been sniping this market up and down. We called the top of the bull market. We potentially might have called the bottom of the bear market that proceeded after that. And so I just want you to know, how am I getting these accurate predictions? Charts. It's all in the charts. Has nothing to do with news. I don't care about Trump pausing tariffs, doing more tariffs. I don't care what he's doing. I don't care about any of that stuff. Everything I say has to do with the charts, up and down. Today's analysis has to do with nothing about Trump pausing tariffs. It has everything to do with what I see happening on these candles, simply put. All right. And so that's all I had to say right there. Hope you enjoyed this video. Definitely subscribe to the channel, like the video, and check the links in the description. My mentorship starts in 12 days. You do not want to miss it. I want to teach you every single thing I know, because in these videos, I say probably 10% of what I know. If only you knew. If only you knew. And if you want to just join the free community, tap in. The link is in the description. And I also live trade at least 3 days a week with my premium members. If you want a free trial for that, there's a link in the description for that as well. And with that being said, everybody, that is all she wrote.